Now, we're continuing to consider the nature of the basic training. And in my last talk, what I essentially talked about was the sense of permission that any individual has for himself or for herself to change anything, to seek anything differently, to do anything differently from what has been trained into me. Now, what I'd like to look at is another aspect of this same experience, which is that an individual child coming out of the basic training that he or she has received in the first 18 or so years of life may emerge with some sense of loss, some sense of gap, some sense of something vital which I aspire to, which I hope to have, which was not supported, which was not given, or which was positively shamed and made to be wrong. And so it will be experienced as a gap or a lacuna, as a loss in my being, in the life that I'm entitled to live. And so, as a consequence, I may go through life quite unconsciously. Remember now, what I'm saying about most of this stuff is it goes on below the surface, that most of us have no idea that we're acting with this kind of complex structure within ourselves, but we are doing it every minute of every day. And so I might be seeking the fulfillment of one or more of these unmet needs, essentially in the relationships that I have with others every day. And in other words, it's understandable that it would adapt that kind of pattern because as a child, I am fully entitled to receive the support, the recognition, the training of how to be a human being from my caretakers, from those who are outside of me, who are teaching me how to do it. The tragedy is when those needs are not met, when that training is not successful or good, then I might continue for the rest of my life to look for it to be supplied by those outside of me, by those who can supply it to me. I don't have it, it must come from somebody else, you see. And so if we're looking at this, what we're looking at is the very nature of the kinds of relationships that we will have as a consequence of this bad basic training. Now, it could just be what I do to my friendships. In other words, what I do essentially is attempt to exploit everyone around me to give me what I didn't get. If I didn't get enough attention, I will subtly seek attention from everyone around me. If my intelligence was not validated and recognized, I will subtly attempt to prove that I'm smarter than everyone else around me. If someone is better looking, if someone is more ambitious, if someone has a better humor, whatever it is, I will sense my own lack of having that in relationship to that person. Now, there are various responses to that. And once again, I'm not trying to establish a universally valid pattern here. What happens is every individual will adapt to that need, to that desire to seek. One way to adapt to it is to go through life perpetually angry. The way I say it is most of the people who deal with me know that I refer to anger as something that gets a bad rap. Oh, you can shut someone up, you can turn someone, oh, gosh, you're just angry. So immediately that individual will feel like, be quiet, don't be angry, you see. When the way I like to say it is, anger is my desire for, very strong desire for something I do not have, something I seek, something I want, which combines with the experience of inevitable negation or denial. Ain't going to happen, not going to be given it, you see. And so when I perceive the two things together, I am angry. And that's what anger is. So it's part of this sense of lack. It's one way to try and cope with getting what I was not given. Another way, unfortunately, and it looks like the opposite, but in fact they're intimately related, is to do just the opposite. If I so much as perceive that someone is different from me, if someone has something more than me, if something is done or said that I really wish I had but feel I don't, then I will collapse, I will surrender, I will give in, you see. One way to characterize these reactions is to fight, angry, attack, go forth, or flight. I give in, I don't have, I will shut up. Recently I dealt with a client who can never say no, because it is a violation of the way he was raised, and to say no means that he is defiant, that he is illegal, he's wrong, and so he must collapse and surrender. Whatever anyone else wants goes. And his problem is that he has to say yes to everything because he doesn't want to, but feels he can never assert his want in opposition to the want of anyone else present. Well, part of the training, you see. So one can go through life insistently angry or insistently surrendering and collapsing, and culminate with a feeling of never getting what it is that is being sought. Now, one of the fundamental basis for that is the fact that it was not given to us as children. And so we do not realize that when I seek to put somebody else down because I want to be smarter or braver or more ambitious or whatever, that I'm essentially relating to the other individual that way out of a complete denial, a complete doubt, a complete no. The way I say this is I go through life yearning for the arrival of a very big ship with a very important cargo that I wish to extract from somebody else, and go through life trying to extract, but I never realize that I have no dock, i.e., there's no way for me to believe I can have it, no way for me to experience having it, because it was not given to me as a child. It was not given to me when I'm young. So I seek it, oh yeah, but I don't believe it, even if you poured it over my head in abundant quantities. And really, it's what makes this quest for these qualities insatiable. I may get it over and over again. I may tell somebody else I'm smarter, smarter, smarter over. Everyone else is less smart, less smart, less ambitious, whatever, you see. And I never realize that it never arrives. I just impoverish the others by trying to deny the qualities, virtues, and pluses that they have. I will try to make them minuses, but I never have a plus myself. We must now both be poor. One way for my saying this is to be aware of this is ask yourself as you go through life with others, after you've had an interaction, after you've had a conversation with somebody, do you feel richer or poorer? And we always know, if you take stock of this quality, you know whether or not you're dealing with someone who's trying to extract something. But it also awakens me to the idea that I might be doing that, you see. So am I the insatiable one here who is trying to extract a quantity I may never have? One place where this kind of interaction manifests itself in a way that I think is inescapable is in men-women relations, in boyfriend-girlfriend, in marriages. You know, the way we do this in the 21st century is a kind of ecstasy. In other words, she is the perfect person. She looks the way I want her to look. She acts, she talks, she's wonderful. She's the answer to all my prayers. She's doing the same thing. He's wonderful. He's the answer to all my prayers. He's the answer, you see. And we do not realize that those are my feelings about her. Those are her feelings about me. They're not about me. They're not about her. They're the individual's own feelings about that other individual, you see. And after it becomes a relationship, especially after it becomes a marriage, then we essentially experience who the other individual is, what is really going on with that person, what is really being said, what is really being desired. And I hate to say it, but tragically, the divorce rate supports what I'm saying here. As you may know, better than 50% of marriages in North America break up. You know, after the hearts and flowers, after the bluebirds and all the rest of it, then suddenly the reality asserts itself sooner or later. Again, the time span in which this works out is infinitely variable. But what it essentially means is that I unsuccessfully attempt to extract from the other what it is I never got. That's the one of the consequences of this negative content of basic training. And what is most important to see there, in my view, is that there may be some quality I can get from them, maybe something that the other individual is willing to share. Sometimes it's true. But in any case, I cannot believe it. I have ingested a lesson which is inescapable, that I will never get it, I will never have it. So much nonsense for all that stuff about forgiveness and closure and all that crap that gets foisted on us as the solution to all of this. None of that will operate or work unless I can recognize myself for present, for what I have received or not received, for what I have been trained to feel or not feel. Again, we're talking here about the reception of good therapy. Do I feel I am allowed to recognize myself and recognize what I have not been given? And any attempt on my part to extract that from another without that self-forgiveness, in a way, without that self-recognition, without that sort of allowance that, okay, I didn't get it, but I'm allowed to have it, which is not an easy experience to go through, but is fundamental to the recognition of my experience and my being there, you see, then I'm not going to have the experience. It's never going to happen to me. You know, I have several acquaintances, let me put it that way, where even into advanced years, they are raging away at their parents and feel they cannot allow themselves to be themselves, to have their own life, unless their parents recognize what was done and not done, unless there be an explicit, you see, recognition of it. And the parents have no idea what they were doing. As I keep saying, you know, the most important thing to understand is the parents are doing this, yes. Do they know it? No. And so they don't get with these individuals what it is that they're demanding, what they've been doing. And as a consequence, they say, well, go away now. You know, you're too angry. You feel too much. You're too complicated. You're saying stuff that never happened. And they just receive the denial all over again. And so they stay there, you see. So the important thing is that they do not ever receive what they get because they themselves cannot believe it. What's important here is the forgiving, understanding, recognition of myself.